Welcome back to PR After Hours. I'm your host, Alex Greenwood, bringing you your weekly cocktail of PR and marketing tips that will help you and your business. Hey, we'll get right to it after this message. Hello, listeners. It's me, Alex, from PR After Hours. I hope you're enjoying the show so far. And I wanted to talk to you just for a moment about the way I get this show right into your earbuds every week. It's because I use Anchor FM. Now, I've told you previously that I've been podcasting since 2006, back when we used stone knives and bear skins and a couple of Dixie cups and string. Anchor FM has really streamlined this and made it simpler for people who don't know the first thing about setting up a podcast or don't have, time to learn all the pro tools and stuff, because it's all right here. First thing it's important to know is it's free. There are certain tools that will allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will then distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. That's huge. Distribution is a big pain in the butt, to be honest with you, so it's really great Anchor FM can do that for you, and you're not paying hosting fees. That adds up every month. It's everything you need to make a podcast all in one place. So download the free Anchor app or go to Anchor FM to get started, and be sure to join me in the virtual cocktail lounge on PR After Hours. Scaling up is a huge challenge for us, particularly, I think, in the PR marketing realm, between just getting our own agencies up to where they need to go so that we can reach new customers. It's also a matter of advising our clients and customers on what they should do to scale up. And that's why I'm really excited to talk to Dave Schneider today here in the virtual lounge. Dave, he's got a very large resume we can go through here, but suffice to say that, he has started a marketing agency that specializes in helping businesses increase their traffic and revenue through SEO. He's a previous owner of several startups. He's got so much going for him. I'm going to let him talk about himself and what he can do to help you and your clients scale up. Dave Schneider, welcome to the virtual lounge.
Thanks for having me, Alex. Glad to be here.
What's the word then? What's going on with Shortlist? Tell us all about that.
Shortlist is good. Despite the times that we're in, things are actually going all right. I imagine, agency owners out there, they may be kind of in a difficult situation with clients, and that's totally understandable. But there are some reasons to be positive, particularly at Shortlist. You mentioned we're sort of an agency. We do a lot of agency-related services such as SEO and website design and development and growth marketing, but we try to do it in a little bit of what I think is a different approach. And that's to really kind of integrate ourselves with the client's business. Because I feel like in order to help a client grow and scale, you really need to understand their organization from the inside out. And so a lot of our marketers are involved in their Slack channels. They're attending their meetings. They're kind of almost like a member of the team. And that's where, we get very ingrained with the customer and allows us to kind of give great strategy advice.
So we talked to, and I got to tell you something, Dave, I get kind of the approach through LinkedIn in particular. I get hit up with SEO companies all day long. And literally every day, it seems I get somebody new. But what strikes me about what you're doing, it's a little bit different. Can you just kind of give me a little tweak on your approach?
Yeah, I like to think everything is very personalized, and I know that can be kind of cliche nowadays. Everybody says they're doing personalized this and that, but even with certain tactics are probably always going to be utilized. People doing outreach, you mentioned on LinkedIn, and because to an extent it works. It's not usually a home run, but you message 100 people, someone's probably going to be interested. But so with everything that we do with our outreach, for example, it's always very personalized. We're not kind of mass emailing, businesses all the time, but instead kind of targeting the specific ones we think really are going to be successful with us based on our client base already, and writing them pitches that are relevant to what they're working on, what we see on their website, the things that we feel like we can kind of improve. And so we're not, maybe able to get out there to everybody, but the ones that we do, it's a very personalized approach. And then that just becomes a part of the work that we do with the client. Like I said, the personalized attention that they get when they get a dedicated marketer working on them in their business and an individual strategy. For example, a lot of times people are asking me, what our services cost and things like that. And everything's custom. I mean, there's no leaflet or packet really that's saying like, okay, well, this is how much your website design is going to cost. Everything's very custom personalized.
I like that. And you're if just a kind of a list of things you offer, you have link building, SEO, web design and development, and your newest edition being Shortlist Metrics Tool. And I'm checking out your website, and this is what I like here. I think this is a really good selling point for you is you're the outsourced marketing unagency you can trust, never get passed along from one random contractor to another again, outsourced to a dedicated marketing team handpicked just for you. I like that, Dave, because I've seen it said before, but when then you go peek behind the curtain, it's still really just kind of a loose patchwork of contractors that's been pulled together. This looks to me, I mean, I've checked out your site heavily here, and if you go to the About Us section, I mean, that's a pretty robust team of people you got there. And that means everybody's talking to each other, and you're not kind of going from, because I've been on these teams, Dave. I'll just tell you really quickly. I've been on teams. I was on one last fall where an agent or company brought me in to handle PR and messaging and some content building. They brought in somebody else for SEO. They brought somebody else in to rebuild their website. And then we were all shoved together at a conference table for 6 hours. And then they're like, all right, go to work. I'm like, well, what do we do? And so they set up like a Teams channel, like a Slack channel. But I found it frustrating as a contractor, to be honest with you, because I didn't know these folks, and it was difficult to get into a rhythm. And I think that probably all of our work suffered just due to that alone.
Yeah, it's a huge problem, and we've kind of heard it on both sides. On the contractor side, like our team, I've heard from other areas, people are frustrated trying to juggle multiple clients, for example, because they can't really be dedicated to one and kind of give them the personal attention. That's one issue. On the other hand, on the client side, they're frustrated with being passed around, with having someone be replaced that they're not aware of, that they don't know, or losing their point of contact, all these different types of things. So that's really what we're trying to solve, to avoid. We have, every marketer is just working on one client, and they're working on them basically full time. And in many cases, they've been with a client for many months, over a year, et cetera. They're not moving around from project to project. There's no kind of in the middle swaps or anything like that.
I'm also interested here, and I guess I can be indulgent since I'm the host here of this show. I'll ask you something because I've been really curious about white hat link building, and I'm not sure a lot of my colleagues fully understand the difference between white hat and black hat link building. Do you mind giving us just a quick little tutorial on that?
Yeah. So I'm trying to make this not a long spiel because I think that there is definitely a variance, a gradient between link building, and some skews more towards the dark side, so to speak, and others skew maybe more towards the white side. So I guess true white hat link building probably doesn't exist, if I'm being totally honest, in my opinion. Now, what would someone maybe claim is white hat link building? Somebody might claim that if you're doing outreach, and essentially you're saying, hey, I've got this great post and I was wondering if you could link to it on your site. What do you think? That would maybe be considered white hat link building because you haven't exchanged any money, and the person has sort of voluntarily decided to put the link in. But technically, my understanding, sort of any efforts to sort of artificially increase your backlinks is not really white hat. It's not really considered natural. Natural is when somebody finds an article without any sort of communication with you and then decides to make a link. But then you can't run a service around that. You can't run a campaign about that. The very fact that you're running a campaign means it's already not white hat. So, so that's that. But it doesn't mean that there still aren't, more appropriate, or whatever you want to call them, more white types of link building efforts, as opposed to kind of the darker ones that you could do. So I think in many cases nowadays, a white hat link building campaign means that either one, like I said, the company's going to do outreach. They're going to ask people to link to them, or they may look to write a guest post on their website. And in that guest post, they're going to include some links, and there may be some fees that get exchanged. The blogger may charge an editorial fee for the time that it takes for them to kind of review the article and things like that. So those are the types of link building services that we engage in. Those are the ones that we feel are very safe for the clients. We haven't had any issues. and they're not anything like building some network of private blogs and then kind of doing some crazy link schemes or anything like that. Everybody's kind of on the same page. But I do, when I have the conversation with somebody who maybe isn't as familiar with link building, but they feel like they want to do it, or they want to kind of get the results that they feel link building will offer, I try to level with them and say, look, there is no, in my opinion, real white hat link building. Anyone who says so is probably misleading. But this is what we do, and we feel comfortable about it, and we've had great results.
Well, I appreciate your candor on that. I have a fairly successful blog. It's by no means, the first one you're going to find, but I get approached quite often by, and I'm not going to call them farms or anything. They're agencies, but they're like, look, will you post this? Usually the first ask is, will you post this for free? Here's free content for you. I'm like, well, I can write my own content, but I understand the lure of that because a lot of people like to have free content. But then the next thing is like, well, would you post it? It's obviously got a couple of links embedded. Would you post it for X amount of dollars? And I've even just experimented and tried that for a while because, and I'll be honest too, it's very tempting now with COVID when business revenues are down to get those asks. Is that something where you have to, I know you offer services similar to that, but is that something where you'd have to counsel people to be careful? Or is that something like, look, if somebody's offering you money to post something that's decent content, it reads okay, it's in the niche that you're writing for, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, before I ran an agency, I actually had a travel blog years ago because my wife and I backpacked for many years, kind of extensively, and we blogged about it. And in the travel niche, buying links is extremely common. So we would get approached by companies all the time, very big, well-known ones that everybody would know, and say, "Hey, could you put a link like in this article, or here's a piece of content." And we were totally fine with it, to be honest, because we were poor backpackers and we would take anything that anyone would give us. For the most part, it was totally fine. Google has kind of, cracked down on that to some extent, I think, in anything that was just like very blatantly unnatural. So if it's poorly written content, if the keyword looks dubious, if somebody's doing it at a scale that's just completely unnatural. But on a small scale, if somebody sends you an article and it looks like it's pretty well written and the links kind of fit naturally and they happen to kind of give you some money for, like I said, either your time to review the article or the editorial or the fact that you've created this blog that's actually attractive. Like I said, I think in that case, it's relatively rare that I think there are issues. Again, I mean, technically, terms of service, all that type of stuff, I think that the technical answer is that you're not really supposed to do that. But the fact is, like, I think in most cases, it's totally fine. So it's very much up to the individual to decide because it is a way in which people make money. And it's a little bit, like you said, it's tempting and it has to be kind of weighed against other options and risks and things like that. But I do want to say that I feel the risks are relatively low.
Yeah, I think using your best judgment. My thing, I insisted on the few I've done this with. I've said, look, I reserve the right to fix your writing if it's crap writing, just to be straight up, because some of the stuff I had sent to me was obviously written by people who English may not have been their first language, first of all. And I'm sorry, there's no prejudice there. It's just I'm prejudiced against writing that's not natural, though, for my audience. So there's that, and then there's the one where it's like, well, here, we'll pay you $10, and I'm like, $10. Excuse me, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
what are you getting paid by your client to push this on to me? You're not getting paid 20, are you? It's that kind of thing. But we're all in a business, and I don't want to go off on that too long, but I appreciate your thoughts on that. I rarely get to speak with someone who really understands that business. What I'm also fascinated about, really quickly before you go, I know you've got a lot going on, a lot on your plate, but this part about Shortlist, about where you need an extra expert hand to add some firepower to your marketing. So you say pick a marketer, add more to build your own marketing dream team. What exactly does that mean? How does that work?
Yeah, I mean, the idea behind the agency, the service, is that there are small businesses out there that don't really have a marketing team or a department. Maybe there's one individual, maybe it's the CEO kind of running it, and they need help, obviously, with marketing. But it's a lot to ask somebody to sort of build their own marketing team, to build their own marketing department, especially if you're not familiar with that. How would you even evaluate somebody, evaluate their skill set and their expertise, manage them, all that sort of work? I mean, that's really the principle behind why people hire agencies. So our concept is to, again, first let's understand what you're trying to achieve. Is it some sort of product launch or a website redesign, or you're just trying to kind of write content and grow your blog traffic? And then given that, what are going to be the people that are going to be necessary to execute that strategy? You might need a designer, a copywriter, a developer, a marketer. You might need them quarter time, part time, half time, full time. And so we try to kind of build that team for you that's completely managed by us, overseen by us, but dedicated to you. And that essentially becomes your marketing team in a box.
I love that, and I think now more than ever, in particular, people are going to be looking for this. So, but let's talk about now more than ever. Let's talk about COVID. Let's talk about what's happening and what have you done to adapt. What has changed for you, if anything, and what are you doing to adapt to COVID?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously not the best times right now. It's quite tricky, not just for us, but for clients. We're an agency, we service a bunch of clients, and they're in a variety of niches, different business models, and we've kind of seen different reactions. I mean, you have one client who is in the social networking niche, right? It's how to be more confident, how to get out there. That's a struggle right now because people are not doing that. They're not kind of going out to bars and socializing. So that's one particular area. But then, it's not all bad. There's a lot of e-commerce sites that have really been booming because people are buying online. Sites in the crypto niche might be doing all right because people are hesitant about the stock market and the volatility there. So they're looking for alternative investments. So it's not all, so number one, I mean, from an agency, from a service provider, is identifying the niches and the businesses that are actually doing well. It would be wrong to assume that just like everybody is tightening up their wallets and stuff like that. There are some people whose business has never been better. So that's one kind of mindset thing to think about. But for those businesses that are kind of struggling, you have to, this is always the case. We should always be doing this, but sometimes we just don't think about it. But you have to always be talking with your target market and really understanding what they need at the time. So even in the example of the client with the social networking, that might not be exactly what everybody's thinking about. Like, oh, how do I, make more friends or be better on a date or something like that. But they may be thinking about, increasing their network because a lot of jobs are found through networking, and that makes me a little bit more recession-proof if I was to lose my job. So angling their products and services about growing your network so that in the event that you fall in hard times, you have a lot of people to rely on. So just thinking about the copywriting, the messaging to be able to speak to your target market on the level that is kind of interesting to them right now. This is the best advice I can give.
It's fantastic. Well, this has been very helpful. So to find out more, it's at shortlist.io, right?
Correct.
All right. And I can't let you go, though, before I have to ask you, because this is so intriguing, especially now when I've been basically locked in my house since March. Please tell me briefly, you and your wife, you backpacked how many countries for how long?
Yeah, we backpacked for 5 years. We
Oh,
probably did over
wow.
60 countries. I know it was a really long time. It was only supposed to be one, which in of itself would have been a very long time. But once you get out there, you realize that there's so much to see, and that 1 year is not really long enough. We like to spend like a month in each country. So we did, doing about 12 countries a year. So we did, I mean, most of Europe and Asia, South America. We did a little bit of Africa. We did an awesome road trip around the U.S. U.S. has a ton to offer. I mean, it's just like actually every state in some ways can be its own country to some degree. So I would encourage people to look there too. And we blogged about it on a blog called thecoupletravelers.com, which we don't really update much anymore, but there are a lot of old articles there that might pique somebody's interest.
Yeah, beyond, okay, separate COVID from everything where we're not going anywhere basically right now. But do you miss it? Do you miss?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, travel is such a big part of our lives. And even now when we're not kind of full-time backpacking, we still really enjoy to maybe go somewhere every 3 months or something like that. My sister lives in Spain, so like maybe go to visit her and things like that. So the lack of travel is definitely, it's definitely hard. I know people are dealing with things that are more difficult. So I try not to kind of be, woe is me, but I'm hoping that we can kind of do something, I don't know, maybe the end of the year. We'll see.
Yeah. We were supposed to be in Hawaii last week, and
bummer.
We'd saved for this forever. So now we're just looking at maybe going camping.
well, I mean, it depends where you're camping. Maybe I don't know.
Well, Missouri has a lot of.
Is it a volcanic island somewhere? perhaps.
Sadly, no.
Luau's.
Oh my God. No, but I did promise to like maybe make some bacon and we could pretend like it's a roast pig or luau. I don't know, but
Sounds nice.
Okay. Last thing, just to bring this back to talking about scaling up and how short lists can help. I so enjoyed the conversation, Dave. So last bit of advice for our listeners out there. They're a PR person, they're a marketing person, they're a small business owner, entrepreneur. Tell them why they need to come talk to you. And I'm sure there's no obligation to talk to you, right? Tell them why they need to talk to you.
Absolutely. Yeah. Never any obligation to talk to me, but I am available if anybody wants to schedule a call. I'm actually on a site called Growth Mentor. You can schedule a free call with me if you just want to chat about marketing related stuff. As for, checking out Shortlist, if you feel like you need a helping hand with your marketing, you're looking for a fresh approach to your strategy, you feel like you don't have all the team members in place, or you don't really want to have to manage them, and you're looking for somebody kind of come in and be your right hand, then that's what we're here for.
Yeah, and again, it'll be in the show notes. The link is to shortlist.io. So Dave, if they want to talk to you, they could go to shortlist.io and then put in the contact form, hey, heard you on PR After Hours. Any chance we could schedule a chat? Is that okay?
That is okay. Or my email is dave@shortlist.io.
I love a guy who puts his email out there.
There you go. We're not hiding here.
There you go. Yeah, I've seen. I've got to admit, I hide mine sometimes because I get really tired of getting all the the spam. But you know what? It's worth it because you meet a lot of great people who like to use email. So that's Dave at Shortlist.io. Dave Schneider, thank you so much. I could go on talking with you. We were chatting offline about how I have another show, as regular listeners know, Mysterious Goings On, and it's about creativity and writing. And he was like, I for a minute thought I was on that show, but now I'm thinking, dude, you need to write a book about your travel experiences and then come on my show. Okay. It's serious.
Yes, become that fiction writer. Yeah, you're right. That's a good idea. I've always been a big Sherlock Holmes fan, so I was prepared to talk about that, but in the event that it was required.
Oh man, I love that. It's the game is afoot, my friend. Thank you so much. Dave Schneider, thanks for being here in the virtual lounge.
Thank you, Alex, for having me.
Oh, you know what that means? Looks like it's last call here at your virtual lounge for PR news, views, and interviews. Don't forget, you can ask me a question anytime. You can do it through our Twitter account, which is @HoursPR, or even better, you can send me a message vocally. I would love to hear your voice, and I'll answer it on the show. There's a link in the show notes. All you have to do is sign up through Anchor FM. It's free, doesn't take long. And you record your message, I get the message, I will play your audio, just give me your first name and the city you live in, and then I will answer the question to the best of my ability right here on the show. Don't forget to, if you're enjoying this podcast, you can support it and help increase the frequency and value of the show. Just consider being a sponsor for your brand or your agency or just yourself because you're like, I like this show. Or just drop a few coins in the virtual tip jar. Either way, there's links in the show notes. Please check that out. All of that, of course, being in the show notes where you're listening right now or at prafterhours.com. I see that they're turning up the lights. Last call is over, and I've got to clean up this virtual lounge. And until next time, I'm Alex Greenwood, and you've been listening to PR After Hours on Anchor FM.